Hey everyone, welcome to a very special episode of the Comics Experiment, the show that I do with my buddies right here every Saturday. We talk about various comic book stuff, we look at various comic book lists, and we talk about the topical news. Well, I had a unique opportunity this week, and I decided to bring it to you. Scott Snyder, the writer for Justice League, The Batman Who Laughs, DC Metal, and various other tons of comic books, wanted to come on the show and basically spoil and talk about DC's Year of the Villain, Batman Who Laughs, Batman the Last Knight, and his new independent project. So today's episode is going to be me filming that. Now, I wanted to do this intro because I made a slight error. We had moved the office around and it didn't dawn on me that I did not actually hit a camera for myself. So I ended up filming the entire Skype screen. So Dylan did what he could, but it's going to look a little off until we get to the second half and it cleans up and things go better. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. It was a lot of fun talking to Scott. And there's a lot of stuff coming here. Don't forget, for most of these episodes, you can watch them live at twitch.tv/eligiblemonster every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And by going to our Patreon, you get early access to most of these episodes and unedited access. You get all the flubs and everything to most of our normal shows right over there. But I'm done plugging our stuff. Enjoy the discussion with Scott Snyder.
You know, these two stories, Last Night and Batman Who Laughs, for me, are really meant to be the last look that I take for a very long time at Batman. And I've been waiting to do these ones for a while, where they're almost like of a piece, where I feel like the Batman Who Laughs is kind of the darkest deconstruction of Batman I could do, where it's all really about somebody coming along and saying why Batman shouldn't work, you know, in all these different ways, and why he doesn't work. And then Batman sort of having to rebut those things, but really a dark dissection of the character. Whereas for me, Last Night, as crazy as it seems and as post-apocalyptic, it's actually a reconstruction of the character and showing why he always has to endure and why he's always important, as grim as that series looks. So
for the record, I'm loving the world you're creating just in general. Like, having read Witches, having read Last Vampire, American Vampire, I'm mixing all your names up, but having seen everything you've written and gone through it all, just seeing your portrayal of the end of the world is incredible. This is going to come out after the issue comes out, so if you are watching this and you have not read Last Night, just a heads up, we're going to be discussing that and the Batman Who Laughs 7. I hope that comes out Wednesday, right? They're both dropping on Wednesday? Okay. Just making sure we're not putting this out way in advance. But like, I was sitting here reading it before getting on the air here with you, and I'm reading through it. I'm like, okay, cool, this is good. And then the first thing, because in the first issue, we didn't see much of like the world itself. We saw Wonder Woman and saw where it's going. But when the Speed Force storm and Batman just being like, I can't help them, but seeing what you're doing at the Speedsters, and then going to seeing what happened with Superman, and just the world you're setting up in general is just so incredible. I want to see more of this world. The Batman story in it is amazing, and the back and forth with Joker's amazing. But the world itself, I'm just so fascinated in, just the little tidbits you've given me so far.
Thanks. I wish I seriously would have done 7 or 8 issues with this thing, you know. Greg and I have so much that we want to do post this, that it really was a matter of just telling it as sort of lean and mean and while still sort of keep making it feel robust as possible. So, the world is something that I've been thinking about forever. You know, it's funny because I think I mentioned this to you, but like, I started thinking about this one all the way back when we were doing Zero Year. You know, I bumped into Grant Morrison at San Diego, and he had told me, make a birth and a death for your version of Batman if you really want to own him. So it's lived in my head for so long that it's almost like there's so many aspects I'm not even going to get to, like what happened in Metropolis, what happened in Central City, specifically what happened to, the Titans, all that stuff is written up, so it's hard to kind of pick and choose, but I'm trying to keep it real sort of focused and emotional. If the first issue is very much about getting out of the cave and sort of going on the journey, this one is about Batman realizing there might not be anybody out there who wants him to help. And, it is really dark, but I would say that it's also the funniest book I think I've worked on in a while. I really love it for, the Joker and the humor, and ultimately it's written for my kids. As they could definitely not read it for a while, they're young, but it's written in spirit to be something that says no matter how bad things get, no matter how sort of how we reject the heroes and how we sometimes lean towards our worst impulses, how they'll always be there for us, and they don't care. They're there. They don't care if we love them. They love us anyway, and they'll still be there to save us or show us how to sort of find our way back. So they're both really personal. I guess if I had like any pitch to people out in the world thinking about picking any of these books up, or also like Justice League or Year of the Villain, they're all different like flavors. One is like, over the top, you'll never get away with this. And one of them is, some of them are quieter. But even the stuff I'm doing indie, like Undiscovered Country, the best pitch I can give is that it's all personal. You can see it's all approaching the same topic from different angles. It's about what happens when we turn away from any kind of collectivism or sense of sort of community and dialogue and compassion, and instead turn towards this kind of isolationism and solipsism and a sense of self-importance, not in any kind of big, macro political way or any of that that's in there, but it's more about watching my kids and seeing them feel like these problems out there are bigger than they can handle. And so they'd rather, watch some YouTube video with a gamer, and Fortnite and this and that. And there's no sense of humility or smallness or losing yourself in a purpose bigger than you. And that's what the heroes are. They're sacrificial. They say, I don't care about me. I care about making a difference and doing something bigger than me. And I think, the conversation just gets louder and louder and louder to reject that impulse and instead to be self-important, on every level, from the level of sort of presenting your life on social media to the macro level where we do say, let's pull away from these treaties, pull away from these countries, all of that. And I think it's just this seismic, tectonic, scary sort of trend and impulse on every sort of level, from the global to the individual. And, that's what all these books to me are about. Batman Who Laughs is the villain saying, essentially, that's what we're designed to do. Luthor basically letting everybody vote on whether or not that's kind of what we want. Last night is a world that's been shattered by that decision. So everything is sort of a look at those things, because I worry about that stuff for my kids constantly, and not in an abstract way, in a tangible way. I think it's what makes, it's something that's very real in their lives in ways that are, from the most kind of overarching in terms of the big kind of nebulous fears of how they're going to participate in the world, and then to the very immediate about them constantly feeling they have to present themselves to their friends on social media. Where are you? Where am I? Are you at this? There's no break. There's no quiet. And so I don't know. I guess. Yeah. Well, that's just that's all I would say is that I hope if you read all of them or you pick up any one, you can see that we're not trying to bullshit. It's not like, hey, just pick this up because it's Joker's head in a jar, or pick this up because it's our big DC event. Right. I'm past that stuff. I'm over it. And for me, it's time, if I'm going to do a book or try and, write something that's bombastic and over the top and a big seller, or something that's more intimate, it has to be about something that matters and is worthwhile. So all of them are of a piece in that way. And I hope that's clear looking at them, that I'm thinking about the similar problems from different angles with these. And that's the best sales pitch I can say to you, is that it matters to me. I love the books because they mean something to me.
Right.
Corny.
I'm reading all the stuff you got right now. The Batman Who Laughs, the Last Night, the Justice League. One thing I do like is they all feel very standalone, but if you're reading them all, you can kind of see how they would fit together. One thing I was going to ask you about is when they meet up with Luthor and he's explaining how they went and presented everything in the Legion of Doom and everything. I'm like, that's all referencing Justice League, or is it? Yeah. So it is directly referencing. Well, it is.
It's an alternate. It's a possible future based on the kind of material we're doing in Justice League. So okay, it's different. It's a different continuity, but it's a sort of logical extension of what could happen. So without sort of some of the elements that are in there, Perpetua and the Apex Lex and the Year of the Villain, it sort of skips those. But it's a spiritual successor to it in that regard. The same way, Batman Who Laughs is, again, connected in the same way to Last Night, because Batman Who Laughs is saying we're better off that way. It's what we want. Don't you see? You're supposed to lead them to that future. You're not supposed to deny them that future. So yeah, they really are of one. They're sort of almost like a prismatic look, I guess, at not just Batman, but what I think the the heroes sort of are supposed to represent and mean to us, even when we really just reject them at certain moments.
Okay. Yeah. Trying to think where to go, because I just read 2 incredible issues, The Batman Who Laughs and then The Last Night. I got a question about The Batman Who Laughs. Well, not question so much, but I really did enjoy the way that you kind of wrapped it up and you let Bruce go all the way in. Like,
Thanks.
So that we were talking about this earlier, because I know in the previous video you had mentioned now it's been extended to 7 issues at the time. And I'd asked you right before the show, was that always intended? Did you always intend to have that grand finale with the Joker shooting and discovering everything, and it's going to link into Joshua Williamson's Batman Superman to find out who's infected, and like the ending on this, once again, if you're watching this and never read them yet, you really should, but the ending on that where we discover Commissioner Gordon, is there going to be more who's infected? Is he going to pass that on to link it into Joshua Williamson, or were you planning on just kind of ending it? Was the Commissioner Gordon finale always intended with the 7th issue and everything? I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, well, the 7th, no, it wasn't. But it wasn't the Josh Williams series. It was more my total stupidity and the fact that we were having a baby, that I thought we could fit the ending in 30 pages. We always were going to do an overstuffed issue, like a 30 to 32 page issue. And that ending has been there from the beginning, but it was going to actually tail into Year of the Villain, the big sort of DC event that we're doing that lasts through November, December, before we kind of change use that as a springboard to the bigger thing that kind of we'll announce, I think, probably around New York, I imagine. But
okay, so that actually clarifies a question I had, because you guys keep saying Year of the Villain, and I'm like, is this like a 3-month event or an actual year?
Yeah, so so here's what it is. So basically, when we were doing Batman Who Laughs, it was supposed to have an oversized finale, and then I realized as I was writing it, it just wasn't fair to anybody. It was asking too much of Jock to stuff all of these pages in there, and finish 30 pages in 1 month. Like the whole thing just needed the breathing room. So it was totally on me and my bad. But I still think it feels stuffed at 7 issues. The Josh Williamson series came around because Year of the Villain is the story that's begun in Justice League with Lex Luthor essentially saying, I'm going to believe in something bigger than myself for the first time ever. And that thing is a sense of human purpose as evil. He thinks that the divine spark in us is our capacity for evil. He says you don't see it in the natural world. You don't see animals acting evil. You see them acting good sometimes. So he actually is like, and he discovers this whole secret history of the DC multiverse, which is in Justice League, where he realizes the universe was started once before, and humans were at the center of this original sort of reality. They were the favored creature, and they had all these amazing abilities. They were, part Martian, part Panagarian. They had all this different DNA in them, and they were the perfect predator and lived forever. And so he's like, that's why we feel this scar, this kind of Garden of Eden scar, is that we long to be, more than we are. And I'm going to be the greatest hero in the history of humanity by leading everybody back there. And the way I'm going to do that is by showing them they need to worship sort of doom and evil. And if they do that, this original God that created the universe, this celestial being named Perpetua, who's sort of one of one of these kind of giant Galactus-style characters that we've created, will come back and reform the multiverse the way it was originally supposed to be. But people have to believe in her. They almost have to kind of believe in doom and evil. And so to do that, what he does is he says, I'm going to make all the villains of the DCU an offer. I'm going to give them everything. I'm going to just completely dissolve my empire and give everybody the one thing they need to defeat their hero. So when they go to a bunker with their name on it, they'll find the thing, whatever that is. It might be information, it might be money, it might be weapons, it might be a team up, it might be anything. You never know what's going to be in there. And if they accept the offer, they'll be able to defeat their hero. And the human population will watch and decide, these are the winners. We're gonna sort of choose our villains for once and all have a good time and be free of this kind of fallacy of goodness. And if you do that, your great deity who made you this beautiful thing when you were first created will rise again and turn the universe in our favor. And so that's Year of the Villain is really his quest. And so the way he begins that is he gives all of LexCorp everything he has to all the villains of the DCU to defeat their heroes, and then he blows himself up. And so in doing so, Perpetua reforms him as the beginning of one of the original humans, this kind of apex Lex, this sort of predator that's part Martian, part everything. And he's really scary looking. He's got this kind of strange pale skin and this green and purple, this green and purple kind of suit and the all kinds of abilities. And now he's kind of the shepherd for this, the zealot for this belief that, yes, see, follow me. You become more than you're supposed to be if you believe in evil. So he really is trying to turn the whole DCU to evil, but not because he thinks it's wrong, because he thinks it's what we're supposed to be and it will be happier. So Year of the Villain starts. It kind of began with its opening shot in May in our 25-cent issue. In July, we just finished Lex giving the offer to every villain across the DCU, essentially. And it plays out all the way through November, when you'll see whether or not people side with him and win, whether they don't, and what happens after that. When, ostensibly, if he does win, which he probably will, the Doom Sigil will rise in the sky, and, the villains will all be empowered, and this original being will rise who can defeat the Monitor and Anti-Monitor, all our big celestial heroes. And then we'll get our biggest war, the kind of giant war between everybody that we've been waiting for.
So that sounds exciting. Going through the offers, the ones that I'm finding the most interesting are actually the anti-heroes. Like when Red Hood got his offer and Harley Quinn, although I love the way she presented hers as looking at her own comic just to kind of throw it all together. But I'm liking the anti-heroes, the ones that were on the fence and stuff like that. So yeah. I was like, oh, this is really good, because now we don't know where those guys are going to go.
Well, that's the fun, is we wanted to give everybody a prompt that they could do whatever they want with. I've never been a fan of events or anything like that where somebody comes in and says, you have to do this, you have to do that, just work for hire. Right. I really love when someone will come in and say, here's a prompt. What would you do with this, with your hero? And go for it. You know them better than I do, or your villain, So that's what we tried to do here. And I'm really proud of the kind of whole kind of ecosystem of story that's being created around it. And then it culminates in November with something really big that we've been planning since we did Metal. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the finale of all of this stuff, for me at least. And that's kind of my end game. As much as one thing has rolled to the next and all of it, my big kind of opus, with Greg, and the kind of way that Metal set up Justice League, set up Year of the Villain, set up some of the other books, set up, to now, that whole architecture that we started in 2017, 2016 really ends in the end of 2020. So
okay,
that's kind of my, that's the plan. And I don't really know that I have the plans to build anything that big again for a while. I really, really want it. We had the baby. I really want to try some other things, both at DC and indie. I got a lot of indie stuff that I've been dying to do for a while too.
Well, I know there's a lot of people that are going, when's the next American Vampire? When's the next Witches?
I met with Rafa at San Diego. So we were going to do it last year, but basically DC came to us and said, 2020 is the 10th anniversary of American Vampire 1, which made us feel way old. And
I don't even realize that. People keep saying stuff like that, and I'm like, I feel so old. I read these things when they all came out.
Right? I know. I can't. I was like, who needs Face App? You know what I mean? It's just just brutal. But they were like, so what you should do is bring it back in 2020 for the 10th anniversary. So, all right. So I met with Rafa again in San Diego, and we've had this last arc. It's not the last we'll ever do, but it's the arc that brings it up to the present. It's a big 8 to 10 issue arc that takes place in 1976 and kind of brings a lot of everything that we've been building together. From Travis is in Vegas, he's kind of a stuntman, Evel Knievel style, and Skinner has lost his vampirism, and it's every character that we've sort of worked with for a while coming back for this big final battle. And it's set against the kind of paranoia of the 70s and the worries about, infiltration from Russia and that whole sense of fears that bad guys have gotten in our government and that stuff, where the monsters have in our series. So it's a lot of fun. And it's, again, we've had it in our head for a really long time, since really for years, like 5-6 years, this ending. So it'll bring it up to the present, and then we'll have a chance to do stories in the past if we want to go back and show hidden things, or we can continue in the present with the characters that survive. So we're going to start production on it in October, and then we should have it ready for you, spring, summer, because we're not going to do it. I don't think the plan, as far as they told me last time, was that the new format, they want it to be like a full volume as opposed to
Right.
serial trade, as opposed to issues. So the idea is that we're gonna just do the whole thing and then release it like out there as the kind of big trade.
Okay, actually,
Unless something changes,
I
you
wanted
never
to
know.
ask you about that, just and the industry as a whole, because you're doing Last Night, and Last Night is 60 issues. You sent it over 60 pages, 60
Yeah.
issues. That'd be a surprise.
I would love maybe we'll keep going.
But 60 pages. So Black Label's doing these double issue kind of situations, maybe even triple, depending on how many pages you want to put into it. But you're also doing the serial kind of like Justice League thing, 21, 22 pages. And now you're talking about American Vampire kind of dropping as almost, I'm assuming, like just a full graphic novel right off the bat.
That's what they're telling me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because this actually doubles down to the question I was going to have about You're the Villain. People, it's a known problem in the industry right now with trade squatting. People are just kind of waiting for the trade to drop. They don't want to read the individuals. Sure. Do you, and I don't know if You're the Villain's going to do the DC Metal situation where you have just like the one big book without a ton of tie-ins, and then you're going to follow up. And that's what I wanted to ask you really though, but do you enjoy writing the long narrative? I have 60 pages, so I don't have to give you a cliffhanger every 21 or something like that. Do you like that better, or do you like the weekly Justice League style or the full graphic novel style?
I honestly, I love all, I know it sounds hokey, but I love the variety at once, meaning I get really sick of any one of them if I have to do it multiple times. So I've always tried to balance it where, like, I'll do a book like After Death, which is prose and spot illustrations while I'm doing the biggest grind I have to do at DC, meaning when I was on multiple monthly books, I did that on the side to give myself some room to try something else. So I love having all of them, or at least a couple very different forms going at once. Like for me, it keeps me young, I feel like, and challenged, because a lot of it is stuff that it just flexes completely different muscles. So,
right.
I love the kind of propulsive engine of Justice League and having to do lettering every 2 weeks and the kind of constant soapy, drama of it. It's huge fun. But then there's something really nice about saying, I'm just going to work on Last Night for the next 2 weeks and just sit with it like a treehouse, because it doesn't have that same hamster wheel of production, and Greg and I can look at it closely. So I know it sounds weird, but for me, it's really synergistic where I just get really bored if I only am working in one format, so the worst period for me, which was, it's crazy because I loved the stories, but I was doing Superman Unchained, Batman, and I forget, there was one other thing, whether it was finishing Swamp Thing, and they were all just monthly superhero, and it was just, I loved
I think
each
Swamp Thing
story.
tied in with all those, because you had a lot rolling
just
at the same time right at the beginning of like the New 52.
Yeah, it was just all huge bombastic superhero stuff, which I adored, but it was like it was getting repetitive in terms of hey, I need a hook after 20 pages, and so I love the kind of challenge of moving around and doing different formats. So each one is just a different sort of set of pleasures. But especially even now doing the indie stuff, which I've missed tremendously, I'm doing the series. I have a bunch. Like I started just for fun over Christmas. I was like, I don't even have publisher for a lot of it. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to start making all this indie stuff that I've wanted to make for a while, because why not? Right. And
right.
So I did the one series with Charles Sewell that's coming out, Undiscovered Country, that's about the United States kind of shutting its doors in about 5 years, but not to immigration, like yes to that, but also like in a complete sort of total way where it becomes a mystery, like a black box to the world. And so nobody knows what's happened here. No communication. No one comes or goes for 20, 30 years. And the story takes place like 30 years after that, when the world's being kind of ravaged by this pandemic, and the world is now kind of organized into these two empires. And all of a sudden, as this pandemic is kind of raging across the globe, they get a message from inside the United States that says, we have a cure. We've been watching you. If you send in one diplomatic team, we'll allow you to come get a sample of the cure. And so they send in this team, and the message is like, wait till you see what we've built. It's the shining city. It's everything is advanced and technologically amazing. And so this diplomatic team goes in, and it's like all the characters we've been working on for a while. One is like a epidemiologist, and her brother's a mercenary, and one is a journalist, and one's an American culture expert. And they're coming in, and they're shot down the second they're over the wall, and they crash, and it's like giant terrestrial fish monsters, and like they're just like, what the fuck, what happened to this country? Sorry.
Right.
So it's huge, over the top, kind of Land at a Loss meets like Lewis and Clark, nonstop, propulsive, widescreen epic action. And the weird thing is, like, working on something like that, to go back to your question, it's like an inversion of what I do at DC, right? So at DC, everybody out there knows these characters, loves these characters. Many people know them better than I do. I'm sure even Batman have ideas about these characters, and they don't care about you when you come on the character. They care about the character, and you have to show that you have something to say, that makes it worth reading your version. Whereas when you do creator owns, they care about you. They know a little bit about you, but they don't know anything about the world or the characters you're building. So it's all, on you to sort of sell them on the mythology, sell them on the whole kind of environment of it. So the premise. So they're almost like total reversals of each other. So even doing something like that, to me, even the series is kind of, plot driven, character driven. It's a big engine kind of series. It's not like After Death or something really quiet. It still feels wildly different to me than, you could probably hear the baby, wildly different than what I do at DC. Because for me, it's all about, creating the whole world that you're totally unaware of. So,
this is actually really helpful.
That's what I mean.
Oh, no, I do exactly what you mean. This is actually really helpful for me, because I'm finally sitting down and trying to kind of write some of my own independent stuff and kind of do my own thing. And so it's interesting to go from seeing the outsider fan perspective to making this whole YouTube channel and everything that I do, to now trying to write it. And it's just hearing you talk about it from that aspect. I've never really thought about it like that. Like when you write Batman, people buy Batman, then they see Scott Snyder. But when I see you write like witches, I was like, Scott Snyder, what is witches? And went in and read it. So it's an interesting way to look at it.
Like, it's weird, dude, but if you're looking to do it too, what I'd say to aspiring writers out there too is, it's an important triangulation. Like, it's something that I think people don't talk about a lot because it sounds crass. Like the idea of understanding what the audience is thinking about when you go into something, because people will say, oh, who gives, don't think about what they want. Don't think about what they're thinking about. But I personally think I love trying to figure that out, not because I'm going to give them what they want, but because then I understand the calculus of how to even nod at what they want to give them what I want. Like, for example, if right now people are just tired of events, right? They don't want another event. You get it.
Yeah.
And you go in there
and you're like,
yeah, if you're just like, big event, they're going to be like, ugh. But if you say, when you go in there and you're like, hey, I get it. You know what I mean? Events suck. Nobody wants them. You know what I mean? Like, and then you do something in the event at the beginning, like we posted, I remember we made all these ads, me and Greg, that were like, we took famous images of the superheroes and then used them to make fun of events before we announced Metal, where it was like, Superman burning heat vision into something. And it was like Aquaman being like, why are you writing superhero events suck, Superman? Everyone knows that. And it was like, Superman's like, they must never forget, and
right.
that sense of understanding kind of what people are thinking about you and the project that you're about to do, and then not to pander or give them what they want, but to understand if you're going against the grain of what they want, how to do that, and how to sort of maneuver and be fluid and kind of surprise them with things they didn't think you understood about their expectations. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it does.
Like, if you're going to go in and do indie stuff, it's like, what kind of book they think you're going to do. Do something that surprises them, or if you're going to do Batman again, or you're going to do a superhero thing that you've done in a way that, so they're like, oh, I've seen this. Be like, have a character be like, I've seen all this, and then surprise them,
right.
Like that. Anyway.
No, it's really interesting to hear like the indie side of things, because I know a lot of people know you for your Batman work, or and then when people start to get to know you from the Batman work, we find out which is American Vampire. We start going into these things like the Undiscovered Country. I didn't really know. Like, I saw you guys tweet about it, you and Charles Soule, but it's been so crazy since San Diego that I didn't like really look into it. So just looking through the images that you sent over, I was like, this looks really interesting. The artwork looks beautiful.
Thanks.
The baseline story looks interesting. Like, I'm going to definitely be checking this out, not because I'm a fan of your work, but because it does look interesting to me, like a different take on the post-apocalyptic kind of a thing. Because we did get to a point where it's like, I feel like everything was post-apocalyptic for like 3 years, and every story was the exact same story with it, which is what was kind of irritating about it.
No, totally. And the last thing we want to do is that. So for us, this is really an homage to, the kind of things that I loved growing up too, and Charles as well. There were those big exploratory adventure series, and the premise gives us kind of a, you secretly learn all these things that have changed, and they're not grounded. It's not like dystopian. It's like mammoths and prehistoric things and zombies, and it's really fun. It's all these different zones. They have to kind of follow this path. I'm spoiling too much, but
I was like, do you want to spoil so much about your independent work?
It's its own kind of crazy biome and a new adventure, and each one is a new chapter. So it's a lot of fun. It's like a yellow brick road.
Yeah, no, it sounds really interesting. What since we discussed that a little bit right now, when can people expect to find that one so they know to go start looking for it?
Oh, it comes out in November from Image. We're really excited. So yeah, November. It's Giuseppe Camuncoli who did Darth Vader with Charles for a long time, and Matt Wilson, who just won the Eisner for coloring. He's great. So we feel really lucky. And then I'm doing I'm just tinkering away like on a couple other ones. I'm doing one with Francesco Francavilla, which we haven't announced the title, but it's about classic horror movies, and another one with Francis Manipal. I'm really excited. So I'm just kind of,
you have
it's
so
weird.
many projects in the works right now, man.
I know. I feel like this weird surge, I feel like I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's an interesting moment in life where we had the baby, and I kind of over Christmas was just like right before we were getting close, was just like, what I want to do my best DC stuff ever. I really want to, I want to just put a bow on some of the Batman stuff, and then just tell the biggest story that I can with Justice League and all this stuff about the same topic, like I was saying, that's really on my mind a lot, and just approach it from all different angles, see if I can do 3 different kinds of stories that are all kind of touching on it, offer different ideas about this thing, and also just start doing my own stuff more too. And just, I don't even know if I'll, do it with DC or with Image, or I'm not, it's really a matter of, the series with Charles is with Image, but it's just a matter of, having a place to go that's like your little personal treehouse, where you're like, I can escape the pressures of sort of the big superhero stuff and just start making things for myself again. Because it's been a long time, Witches was the last thing I really got to do that with, that and After Death, and those were quite a few years ago now. And we're gonna go back to Witches as well as soon as we're done with Batman Who Laughs, and Jock is doing one quick thing, and then we're gonna do the next arc, but. Yeah,
I think you just have like a list of things you need to get back to. Like there's a secret wall in your writing office that is just like, go to this, get back to this, finish up this one.
It is, but it's really, this week is huge. Seeing Batman Who Laughs come to a close, and the kind of work that Jock and David Barron and everybody did on it really means the world to me. And having last night with Greg, it feels like everything's coming full circle. Batman Who Laughs is really a kind of cousin or descendant of the Black Mirror, the first Batman story I ever did, on detective. It brings up a lot of the same themes, touches on some of the same stuff.
I was actually going to ask about that, because I love Black Mirror, and just seeing, basically Jim and James working together again and kind of touching on James. I always get the 2 names mixed up, but the son trying to get past everything from what happened in Black Mirror and everything. I do love the fact that you are managing to tie everything together. Like I said earlier, it all comes together, but it doesn't directly connect. So I don't have people hitting me up going, well, where do I have to read this one? It's almost like you're nodding to the fans that have been reading since Black Mirror, and reading all of your New 52 work and the Justice League work, and like it constantly references things that have happened, so that we're on the same journey with you since the beginning of Black Mirror, instead of it just being like, well, here's the new one I wrote. And it doesn't matter if you read anything.
That's what I want. The message, honestly, I have a thing over my desk. It's corny, but the thing we're building to as well, it has the same motto. It'll be the first page of it. I know I'm being like cryptic, but Greg and I we're finishing last night, and then we have Year of the Villain, which is the big DC thing. And then that tails into kind of a final thing that Greg and I want to do. And the motto of it is everything matters, meaning like, for me, that's not the motto of that thing. It's the motto of the last 5 years, 10 years, really. I want people to read my stuff now and feel like everything you read is coming back in a way that's new, but references, the original, that in a way that hopefully gathers some kind of cumulative meaning to now. That you see, when you see the owls again, it matters because it's fun and it rewards you, but it's a different take that says, I've been thinking about this, and there's a more robust meaning to who they are and all that stuff. So each thing like that, James, bringing James Jr. back and having him now actually be cured, and having him say, what does it mean that it's worse on this side? I enjoyed being a psychopath better and all of that stuff. So yeah, I want it to feel just like you said, where you get into these books and, you could read them blind. If you've never read one of my things, you can pick up Last Night or whatever. But if you've been reading, that this feels like the moment when everything's coming full circle. Last Night sort of brings everything from the run with Greg back. Batman No Laughs brings Black Mirror back. And then all the stuff going forward, Justice League, Year of the Villain, and the stuff we have planned afterwards sort of, again, brings those different narrative threads together in one big kind of crescendo. So I don't know. I'm really excited about it, about everything. I feel really good, and honest about promoting them.
Right.
Like I don't feel like I'm out here shilling and P.T. Barnuming bullshit. I feel like I do love the books. I love what we're building with James Tynion and John. Like I love it. We bring in Justice Society and Commandy and all this crazy stuff. Like, so it's a really good moment. So I'm enjoying it a lot.
So bringing this back then to Year of the Villain, and for the record, I'm loving everything that's coming out right now, and so the fact that your excitement just gets me more excited about wanting to read everything. So you're doing a great job of not shilling, as you put it.
I'm telling you, the best sales pitch I can give is like, you look beneath the hood and everything is touching on similar themes. It's because it matters to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's what I'm thinking about. So none of it is just, I'm phoning it in. So for better or worse, believe me, I screw up, and I'm sure not everything's perfect. But the thing, I've never let something out the door, especially in the last few years, that I don't think it doesn't mean something to me, and I didn't do my best on it. That's all I'd say.
As long as you feel you did. But back with the Year of the Villain, so are you overseeing all of Year of the Villain then? Because it seems to be like stemming out of Justice League, but it seems like it's going into a lot of different pots. So I just didn't know if you were overseeing it all.
No, yeah, I'm aware of all of it, and Editorial sort of lets me and Brian Bendis and stuff know too, so that we can manage, to rein anything in or let anything out. But really, it's more just being overseen by Editorial in terms of what happens in the books. But it's almost like we started it, and with the Lex Luthor stuff and some of the Leviathan stuff, and then it goes out into the books. And then we let everybody sort of do the things that they think are gonna make the best story in their books and gonna, be the best challenges for their characters. And then when it comes back, we take it back over. Meaning when it comes back in November, between now and November, it really starts to come together in terms of, whether or not the villains win, whether or not the heroes defeat them, and what that means for Lex Luthor and the forward moving motion of the DCU. Sorry, I'm in my kids' room also because the baby is downstairs, so you can see I'm in his gaming chair, and he's got you can see his Naruto and his One Punch Man stuff. He'd kill me for showing, but I'm very proud of how geeky his room is. Where I'm either doing, he has a Vasquez figure from Aliens and all that, and I was like, I love you, son. You're just the kid I ordered. Where it's I'm either doing everything right or everything completely wrong.
I'd say you're doing everything right. That's one thing actually I know you wanted to talk about. How is you had the kid? Congratulations, by the way. I've never said it on the air here. But how has it changed your outlook on everything you're doing? Has it changed your writing? Has it changed how you look at Batman and how you look at your independent work and what you want to work on and focus on?
It totally has. And I think that's one of the reasons the work has taken on a different kind of urgency, and I always knew the stuff that we were building mattered to me a lot in terms of the stuff I told you about. It's not some abstract concept, what if we're just dark, selfish creatures, and what if we're better off that way? It's a really, to me, a really immediate worry about, do we just are we just going to fall into sort of little pots of self-interest where it's oh, I don't care about those people. I'm going to vote for me and whatever. And regardless of where you are on the political spectrum. And so it really, getting pregnant, which we didn't think was a surprise, not to be too much information, but, my kids our boys are 12 and 8. So we tried for a while, years ago, and really wanted to have another kid, and then it just didn't work. And we just resigned ourselves that was it. And so when we got pregnant and found out in August, September, it changed everything, where I was like, this kid is going to be in class of 2036, 2037.
Wow.
Okay. So I'm like, I know. I'm like, am I even going to be alive? I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God. If I don't go to that graduation in a flying car, like everything has failed, by the way, or on a hoverboard with self-lacing sneakers. But what it made me realize is that, the issues that I'm concerned about for my kids, who are my older boys, which, I see working out through them, are even more urgent for him, for Quinn, for our baby. And the way that world's going to be, the world he's going to inherit is going to be so far down the line from what we're deciding now, that all these decisions take on a bigger sense of importance, that I feel the sense of I'll be too old to really I'm not old. I'm not feeling like I'm going to be like dust by the time he's in college. But I just mean that, I see when you have kids young, and we had our kids pretty young, I think, you feel very much like you're going to be there with them forever. You're going to be there till the end. And having Quinn now, it's not like I think I'm going to be too old to do everything with him, but not to get too on the couch. But there's a point at which I know he's going to outlive me by more than those other kids. And it makes you feel more urgently about telling stories that are going to give, your guidance, or give some kind of, deep meaning or exploration to the subjects that you think he's going to be wrestling with. So yeah, it definitely changed my outlook, both in terms of writing stuff that's my own, the indie stuff, and getting more of that out there, because I think that almost piercingly goes at some of that stuff. And it lit a fire under my ass for my DC stuff, because you want it to be the best stuff possible, the stuff that really matters, and the stuff that hopefully will make some kind of difference, not in some corny, huge way. But I mean, I don't have that sense of self-importance, but I mean, writing the best thing you can that says, listen, I'm thinking about these things because I care about you. I love you, and I care about your future. And I'm worried about these things, So yeah, it definitely just brought it into magnifying glass sunbeam focus, So, and it's great. He's so funny, dude. There's so much I forgot being a dad. Like, I was like, oh, that's right, they ride backwards, forever. Or like, where you're like in a car, or you're like, he just started smiling, and, go to get him at 2 a.m. and he's like, and you're like, all right, I could do this. And, it's the best. I love being a dad, it's great. And I feel very grateful that we're getting to go through it again. So even though I'm tired.
You're tired?
I'm tired.
Well, congratulations again. Is that why San Diego was a little bit shorter for you this year?
Yeah, there's part of me that thinks I shouldn't have even done it. My wife was great though. She was like, I really want you to go. I want you to see, because a lot of my buddies were there that I don't get to see a lot, like Jock, and Greg Capullo, and Jeff Lemire was going, and Jim Chung, and it's just people that I work with that I wouldn't see otherwise, that I'm really attached to. Mark Doyle, who I've done everything with. So it really became about like, I got to go and see these people. And my wife, again, was the one that pushed me. And so I went, but because I usually go from Wednesday to Sunday, I flew there Friday morning and flew out the minute it was over on Sunday. So it was like everything was just jammed. And so It was crazy. It was like just running from one thing to another. Otherwise, I would have tried to come by and see you. But I saw you having a great time, like at the Batman Museum, beating up the Joker, the punching bag and all that. Dude, you look good. It looked fun.
It was a lot of fun. I had a very similar thing because, like I told you before, we don't typically go to San Diego. We do all the work from back at home when the things get announced. So I was trying to cram it in to make both of those things work. So I flew in Tuesday for the Batman Museum on Wednesday, for it to start on Thursday, to do more work on Friday, to get on a plane super early morning on Saturday to get back in time for all of the big Hall H announcements, to start working on videos. And I felt like I just didn't have enough time to do everything I was supposed to do and people I was supposed to meet up with. I remember messaging you and being like, I think I might be at that similar party you may or may not be going to.
I know, dude, it's a beast. I love San Diego, but I always warn people going that it's like, it's the deep end of the pool, and everything is a challenge there. If you accomplish like 2 things a day, it's great. Like, you should pat yourself on the back, have a drink at the bar, and congratulate yourself, because it's hard just moving around that one. But again, I love it because you get to see. I love seeing the fans, obviously. Although that one, they ticket it so heavily that you can only just be like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, it moves like so fast. It's frustrating to me because I like getting to talk to people, but and getting to see friends, you know, getting to see people that come over from overseas and that stuff that you wouldn't see otherwise very often. So Tom Taylor, you know, also from Australia.
Yeah, I finally got an actual photo with him because
he's the best.
He never goes to any convention I go to.
He does well. Yeah, I mean, he's like just killing it now at Deceased and everything. I'm so proud of that guy and happy for him and everything. You know, we've been friends a while, so
between Deceased and the Batman Damned, I guess you can kind of say it, and then Last Night on Earth, I feel like DC is just trying to tell the end of DC over and over and over, but like different aspects.
A lot of dark Batman, right? I know a lot of beating up on him. It's like it's cold for his 80th birthday too, man. It's rough. I know, but no, it's also it's a good time. You know, I feel like. The stuff we have coming out, honestly, I can, you know, I try really hard to be transparent with the fans. And if I don't like something, I just don't talk about it a lot. Or if I'm not, you know, if there's something
that's my
coming
philosophy on books. People ask me like, why won't you cover certain stories? And I say, if I don't like it, I don't cover it. There's more than enough that I do like that I don't like covering things I don't enjoy.
Yeah, maybe people sometimes disagree with me about this, but I've always had the attitude, even before I was in comics, when I was in books, you know, and trying to get into comics and I did reviews, it was always very much like there's so little spotlight for the things that you love half the time, you know, the indie stuff and even superhero stuff, that I just am not a big believer in taking the time to talk about things you don't like, except I totally understand when it's stuff that's big, you know, and in like, Of course, if you don't like Year of the Villain or if you don't like Batman, like the stuff that's, you know, in your face, whatever, of course, like 100%. But I mean, I just think usually as a general rule, I'm the same as you, where it's like, you know, if you don't, I won't go out and talk. I won't talk about things very much, you know, that I dislike or that I'm, you know, against in terms of their execution or whatever. I won't shill for them. That's all I mean. Like if a friend is doing a book that I don't, you know, I'm not hugely, I'll still be like, pick it up. But I mean, you know, I'm not, you're not going to see me out there, you know, beating the drums for stuff. Cause I feel I'm very proud of, as corny again, as it sounds, my relationship with the fans, and that, you know, I really feel like it's true what Greg Capullo always says when we're on the cons. He's always like, DC employs us, but we work for you. And, you know, I try hard to be honest about, I'm really proud of this one, or I'm you know, proud of that one, or, you know, that. I'm not going to go out there and be like, I don't like this book because I've never put something out that I really dislike. But I try and be honest, you know, about when I'm feeling a lot of fire behind something we're doing, or if I'm feeling like this is the lull and then we're going to build it back up or whatever it is. And right now I'm really, really happy with all this stuff. And, you know, I think that what we're building at DC, it'll have its ups and downs, but what it's headed towards with Year of the Villain and what it's headed towards on the other side of it, I really believe in. We're having like a summit actually in my town soon to go over some of it, which is really, because I can't travel with the baby that much anymore. Right. Like, because I did so much, I went to, you know, San Diego and whatever. So they're coming here to like my boony, like rural little town to figure some of it out. And I'm so excited because I'm looking at the pictures and the stuff and just being like the promos and the stuff you guys haven't seen yet of what's coming and the designs, and just being like, all right, we're going to bring it all together in one big orchestral kind of symphonic finish, you know, to what we're doing.
You're the Villain has me excited. I mean, I've always disagreed, and this is just personal preference, because I know some people do enjoy it. That's why I was asking how You're the Villain is going to tie in, but I've always disagreed with the way Marvel does events, where it's very much like the whole story is in all the tie-ins, and you got to buy 50 books a week, and that's an exaggeration, but I've always disagreed with that. I've always liked the way DC does it, where like, here's the story, and then you just kind of let people do things that tie into the story, very much how you did Metal, and very much, I mean, that was the last big event DC's done in a long time. And You're the Villain's treating it like that too.
I'm adamant about that. Like that was the way I loved doing them when I was asked to do anything. So you won't ever see me participate or run any event that's like, do this, do that. You know, that doesn't work for me, or that you have to read multiple books to get the story. Year of the Villain, you'll see, you can, you know, read about what happens to the different villains, but if you want to know what happens with Lex and the finale of it, it will be both in Justice League, and there will be a finale of Year of the Villain coming in the late fall, early winter, that will just be like, boom, this is how this all culminates. So, it will be a singular story that you can read on its own as well. Yeah, I always want you to feel like it's modular. Like, I don't know. I mean, I try and be aware of how expensive comics are. Again, I know it's like kind of crass, but just the idea that like, $4 is crazy freaking expensive for
a comic. When I was in the Army, I had $20 a week to spend on comics. Like my budget wouldn't allow for any more than that.
My DC stuff I get, free, but my Marvel stuff and all that, like I go and it's, I do well, but I'm like, it's expensive. I'm there like being like, it's, I have like a decent salary and that stuff, but I still go there and I'm like, God, I'm spending so much money. It's only half my pull list, and that sense of like, a novel, you go buy a novel for a paperback novel for the price of 2 comic books, Yep. So it's like, I don't know. I'm very afraid, I think, of ever doing anything that feels decompressed in a way that's stringing you along or that's not giving you more than you bargained for money wise, So the stuff that we have coming and the way that we're trying to plan our stuff on Justice League and all of that is definitely meant to be, it's definitely meant to just be like giving you more bang for your buck than possible. So
gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a potential spoiler. I have a theory about Year of the Villain, and you may just go, I have nothing to do with what's going to happen with that. But we were talking about this other day in the office, and we were talking about how Deathstroke just died over in the Teen Titans, and they're doing his, like he's not in his own book. And my theory is that he's going to pop up in Year of the Villains as an important element, and you kind of needed him off the table in his own book to make it work.
I think that's a very good guess. But I can't answer that question, but I would say I think it's that would make for a very good story. That would make for a very good beat.
Okay.
So what I will say is this, like, to be a little bit less like cryptic and about Year of the Villain, think about it like this. Like everything we're building over here with Batman Who Laughs and everything we're building over here with Lex Luthor is going to go like that.
Right.
So part of the idea is when you see that poster that says who are the infected and that, the Batman Who Laughs is creating like a serum that's slowly working its way through the DCU and infecting people and turning them into kind of dark multiverse versions of themselves. That means their cells are literally replaced with dark matter and they become the sort of most frightening, vicious version of themselves possible. It replaces them almost like, pod people kind of within them. And meanwhile, Lex Luthor is powering up all the villains to take over the world and be like, look, villains are the best. So you have these two strains coming together. And when you get Apex Lex versus Batman Who Laughs, like infected heroes and, souped up villains, it's going to be a lot of fun, right?
I'm excited. You've sold me a Near the Villain, and I was already buying it.
Well, I'm spoiling. I feel like the DC hook's going to come and like yank me off the thing, but I'm spoiling like tons of stuff right now. But that's the shape of what we're building, and then what comes out of that is what the heroes have to deal with. Meaning that culminates in sort of the final plateau where the heroes are like, oh my God, how are we going to deal with this? You know what I mean? And that's the last act, the third act of the story we've been telling since Metal, really.
Okay. Well, so you didn't confirm or deny what my theory is, though.
About Deathstroke?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would say this. Deathstroke is never going to go away for very long, and it would make a really good comeback for him to show up somewhere in Year of the Villain, right?
So, okay, all right. I won't go too much into it for fear of like you completely denying it or completely confirming, and then we have to deal with like cutting things out. But
I feel like that's as close as I can come to completely confirming it.
Okay.
Without me getting cut out of DC.
DC's hook actually does show up. All right, so we're coming to the close of the time you had set up. What do you want to promote, talk about? What do you want to say? I mean, you already promoted a lot of the stories. Do you want to just drop some dates? Do you want to show some stuff?
Sure. Well, first of all, like I also want to say thank you to you, man. I feel like we've been doing this for a while now, and I really look forward to it. It gives me a chance not to just like, I don't know, get on a thing and talk for 30 seconds about like the elevator pitch log line. This is what I'm, selling, but to talk to you and be able to almost forget we're on a show and be able
Oh
to
no,
talk.
I appreciate you coming on to the show. You seem to like to, you just want to talk about your projects and not have that 30-second time limit of, all right, you're gonna have 30 seconds, Scott. You got to hit this. You know?
Yeah, well, I think also like the thing I'd say is, I don't know, I like the idea that we're letting readers in more, you know,
Right.
and the idea not just with the projects, but you know, like I'll show you the place we're building outside, and
Okay.
you know, meet my baby son now, he's downstairs. But the idea that, you know, for me, when I get to talk long form like this and meander a bit, I think it gives a better picture of why we're doing what we're doing, your love of everything, my love of everything, why we're sort of, you know, in this crazy industry and what we're trying to accomplish and in that way and why it matters to us. So yeah, I think, and if there's anything I could say other than like thank you to you, Benny, is thank you to everybody that's been so supportive, honestly, of the books for the last 10 years. You know, this was my 10th San Diego, and going as a pro and going, there was so much that felt so nostalgically full circle. Seeing Jock, the first San Diego I ever went to, as a pro, my whole goal was to get Jock to do Black Mirror with me and to track him down. I didn't know him, and to get him to believe in that I could pull this off in 12 issues and you know, to sign on for it. And, you know, it was where I met Jeff Lemire, who I saw again this time. So all of it, it's been a long time. And what I'm saying is I'm very aware of the fact that careers in comics can be very short. And I deeply, deeply appreciate the support and the, you know, the love that fans have shown me and my teammates and the work that we've done. And I promise we never take that lightly. So the books that we have coming out this Wednesday, it will have already passed the 31st. Batman Who Laughs, Last Night on Earth, Batman Last Night on Earth #2. And then Justice League 30, which starts Justice Do More, the big finale of our Justice League year, where Apex Lex versus the Justice League all the way across time. So it goes back in time, forward in time. You see the JSA coming back to Justice Society. That starts.
Oh, finally.
Yes, finally. I know.
That's a big spoiler.
Yes, it's that's on the 30th, I think, of this month of August. And,
okay.
Yeah, so we have one more issue. We have 29 coming out in a couple weeks. That's Jarro's Dream, and it's actually Jarro.
Jarro's the greatest Robin ever. You've made the greatest Robin.
Thank you. Wait till you see this issue. It's like my favorite thing. It's told from his point of view, and it's also a primer. If you haven't been reading Justice League, it catches you up on everything. It's like prelude to do more. So you can read 29 and get everything you need, and then 30 starts our big 9-issue like epic battle that really the Legion of Doom versus Justice League all across the history of the DCU. So it's
you just
big.
made my scheduling a lot easier by telling me it's going to be 9 issues, because we literally were going to do the annual and then the big 6th dimension arc on the channel. Mm-hmm. So now I know how to pace the rest of it.
Yeah, dude, it goes from August to December. So it goes all the way through. So it's a big one. Yeah. And then then the indie stuff. Yeah. Doing Undiscovered Country with Charles. Can't wait, you know, and Giuseppe Camo, and that's November, and we'll be announcing more indie stuff as I go. I really am just kind of building it on the side, and you know, teasing it, and that's it. You know, so everything is really good. This week is just a giant though with these 2 books. You know, I got them. They just came too. I got them. Like they look like this.
Yeah.
But you know, Batman Who Laughs again is like the darkest thing that I've done. I think where it's really a dissection of sort of in criticism of why Batman doesn't work in a lot of ways, and he has to kind of argue that. And then in Batman Last Night on Earth, it's a post-apocalyptic kind of our version of The Dark Knight Returns, sort of our crazy, out of control, you know, metal-spirited sort of take on that we've been building a long time, where it's a young Batman in a future where the DCU is decimated, and he has to figure out not only what happened, but how to save it when nobody really wants it saved. So
right.
That's kind of those are my 2 out this week. And yeah, again, I just can't thank you enough and can't thank everybody enough, man.
Thank you for being here. I think the fans enjoy seeing your point of view, actually hearing from you, as opposed to like the 30-second clips or the occasional tweet. Getting to see that whole your actual excitement and the other side of you here.
I would do this all day. It would be fun. We do it at night and have a drink and whatever, you know, and relax. Especially when I have this place built. I was saying, like, so check this out. So this is my son's room is like covered in crazy stuff. I'm actually almost like symbolically, because I've been doing so much new stuff. I was like, it's time to build, a place of my own outside of the house. And because we're having a baby, so we're building this writing studio.
Oh, that looks incredible. I've seen some of the pictures that you've been tweeting out.
Yeah, am I getting it in there or no?
Yeah, it's definitely in there. Yeah, it's right past the pool, and you got the lumber over there.
Yeah, so it started off. So I just feel almost like it's a moment when you can finally kind of just focus on, no longer needing to prove anything. There's nothing I feel, I don't know. I don't need to. There's nothing I feel like, oh, I have to do this to show I can do this, or I haven't done this. It's a challenge. It's more about, right now, a big transitional moment. I've been in it 10 years, at DC, and it's time for me. I've done all the big stuff and have more big stuff coming, big events and all that. But I want to start shifting gears and being able to just, do more of my own stuff, and also sort of step back a little bit from the hugeness of some of the stuff we've been doing at DC, and be able to focus a little bit more on, stories and characters that I haven't gotten to do things with. So
right.
That was part of it, like having a baby, building the house, thinking about wanting everything to be really urgent and resonant. Just, I don't know. It's just like a gut check moment, and being like, don't do this for the wrong reasons. Like, do everything, every story you tell, every project you take now, you got nothing to prove anymore. Do it for you. Make yourself the most exciting writer to you can be, and tell the stuff that's difficult to talk about in a way, for you, whether it's personal anxieties and stuff, or it's about the world or whatever.
Well, I mean, you're doing great stuff out there. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, anytime, dude. Thank you. I love coming on. So I feel like I also you get me talking, I could talk for another. So I always
I know you have the follow-up meetings. I'm trying to give us the closure on the show.
Oh, sure. Do you want me to say something more of like a cap that's like
yeah, why don't you, because I know you said you're going to restart your YouTube, but your Twitter, you're very active on your Twitter, and then you have all your various projects you want to, so go ahead, promote 30-second DC plug style.
Yeah, so just say, again, if there's anything I could say, it's thank you to everybody. So I'm also, you can find me on Twitter at ssnyder1835. And also I have a YouTube channel, which I've been really bad about the last 6 months since we had a baby, but I will get back to, and it won't just be baby shit, I promise. And yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff too. I'm easy to find. So please let me know what you're thinking about the stuff that we're doing. And I try, my DMs, my messages are open on Twitter, and I try and get back to people when I can. So I don't know, let us know. We're really excited to hear what you're thinking of what we're doing. So yeah, I'm around. And again, Benny, thank you. You're the best. I love coming on the show. It's a blast.
You're great to talk to. Thank you so much. And one final cap note on the DM thing. I've always had mine closed unless I was following somebody, and I finally opened them, and I tweeted out, I've opened my DMs. I came back from a bike ride to over 500 just unread messages. I was like, oh, I should not have done that.
That's the danger. I know. But it's better than not, I think. I like it, but yeah.
Yeah, I got to go through and start responding to some of those people.
Yeah.
But all right, guys,
again,
we're going to close out the show.
Oh,
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay, we're going to close out the show. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure you go chat with him over on Twitter if you want to get more of a direct. But let me know in the comments down below what you think you're going to be picking up based upon what he's talked about. And I guess I'll end this portion and do the appropriate outro next. Thank you, everyone. And here's an outro because I don't know how I ended the video that we pre-recorded. If I didn't end it properly, don't forget we film this show live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/eligiblemonster. It's also up on our Patreon, unedited early access over at patreon.com/Comicstorian. And if you want to continue to support us, check out our t-shirts. We've got ones for Comicstorian, Tales of Earth, Eligible Monster, and the various games that we have in our Discord community. Yeah, we have a whole Discord community where we support 4 different games: Minecraft, Destiny, Warframe, and Final Fantasy. You can go there, hang out with members of the staff. We play various games. We can chat with you, help you in the games. It's a great, burgeoning community of comic book and video game people. I was going to say bludgeoning, but I don't think you want to go to a community where we knock you out. Either way, thanks for watching the episode. We'll see you next week at a normal episode of Comics Experiment.